All right, so our goal for right now is to finish our song. We're gonna tune the lead vocals. We're gonna do some mixing things. We're gonna bump some gain up on some kicks, I feel like. We're gonna use Neutron, which is one of my favorite plugins to use at the very, very end of the song's life. And yeah, we're gonna have a finished product by the end of this lesson. Let's start by tuning this chorus lead, and as you know, we already timed it, so it's all in the pocket, and now we're gonna just make it really, really good. And I have a very specific way of tuning vocals. Sometimes I'll even make new notes. Let's see what we got here. Format on, we're in D flat major. Let's collect the pitch.
Why you gotta go and get my...
Ugh.
Why you gotta go...
That's completely dry. So, going really crazy right here. This G flat to an A flat, I'm kind of sliding up to it. Why you going up? So I want to make it, well, let's first get that A flat. And you can do this in Melodyne too. That's a really powerful tool as well. I'm just using Auto-Tune. If you have Waves Tune, that's great too. I want to make this a little less bendy. So I want to get this G flat. This kind of sounds like this right now.
Why you gotta...
Why? Either, let's go here. And we're gonna extend this out. We're gonna over-tune it on purpose and then kind of correct it by smoothing it out like that. It's gonna...
Why you gotta go...
Still not perfect, because you don't want it to sound like a robot. So kind of just manipulate it like that.
Why you gotta go... Why you gotta go...
It's pretty good. Get this right here. Smooth that out. Boom. I never want to like hard tune it at the very beginning because that's what gives it the super, super T-Pain effect. But if that's fine if that's what you're going for. But here we're going for a kind of natural sounding vocal. Get this right here. Not going too hard at the beginning, but at the very end, go crazy.
Why you gotta go and get my...
Gentle. And maybe a bit more aggressive. Here, very aggressive. See how it drops off there? I want to keep that up as much as possible.
Why you gotta go and get my...
Actually, I was wrong. Let's drop it down a little bit. So now we have this. I always, after I'm done tuning, I always leave the plugin on a little bit, and I kind of just take it back to, I think it has a sound to it. Humanize up, flex up, just gluing it all together.
Why you gotta go and get my...
But you know, I just heard something. I want that D natural to be a D flat. Let's listen to it now.
Why you gotta go and get my...
Cool.
Why you gotta go and get my...
And again, that's going into the hope step. Let's get the next section right here. This is good right here. Clear all data.
And love me like you did.
Ugh.
Act like I did not exist.
Ugh.
And love me like...
It's so bad listening to it on its own. All right. So you want to do this artfully. Get that F natural. I didn't really nail it. Because the whole point is you want it to sound like a human for this song. And love. And see, I did like a little inflection there. And love. I still kept on the F. And love. But I kind of dipped down a little bit here. So I don't want that to happen. I want it to stay up here. So I'm going to just drag that up here. And it's going to be a little aggressive just for now. But boom. And then you smooth it out. Let's see what that sounds like.
And love me.
Too much.
And love me.
That E flat is a little hard. Ugh.
And love me. And love me like... And love...
Get this little end bit here. I still think I can push it there.
And love me like...
There we go.
And love me like...
Get this here. And love me like you did. Like. Smooth that out. Smooth it out now. And love me like you did. And love me like you did. Act like I do not exist. And love me like you did. And act like I do. And love me like you. Still a little hard there, but let's get that there. And love me like you did. The D flat. That's a passing note, so that can be tuned pretty aggressively. It did. This is go easy. Just a little there. I want the vibrato still. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. Not boom, act like E flat here. Boom, doo doo, boop boop. Right here. Just getting everything to the best of my ability. And love me like you did, and act like I. That was a little robotic sounding, so loosen it up. And love me like you did, and act like I do. That's good. Same thing. I'll just blast through this. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. And love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. There we go. So this is what we have so far. Why you gotta go and get my and love me like you did, and act like I do not exist. You get distracted then. Distracted, then you're gone. Let's get that really quickly. Get distracted, then you're gone. Get distracted. Get distracted. Then yeah. Maybe go a bit earlier on that one. Then you're gone. Get distracted, then you're gone. Then E flat. Of course, there's dogs barking now. Then you're gone. Get distracted, 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 then you're gone. Distracted is not. Get distracted, then you're gone. It's even G flat. I wanted F. Get distracted, then you're gone. 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 Needs to be good. Get distracted, then you're gone. Get distracted, then you're gone. Get distracted, then you're gone. See, that's super tune, and then you get distracted, then you're gone. Back it off. Get distracted, then you're gone. 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 See, that's good. Get distracted, then you're gone. Get distracted. Why you gotta go and get my... we already did that, so we just copy paste this right here. Nope. There. Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? You had me so... To these background vocals really quickly. I don't think these actually need too much. It's my. Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? Yeah. Maybe just hopes up, just to make that super hopes up.
Get my hopes up, get my
Hopes up.
hopes up.
And then we're gonna vocal line that to the main.
Hopes up, hopes up, hopes
I'll
up.
show you how I do that. I do it a
hopes up,
little bit
hopes
differently, but not too differently.
Hopes up, 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 hopes
There's that.
up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up.
Imagine listening to that for hours.
Hopes up, hopes up.
Like the worst fire alarm ever. Okay, so can you imagine?
Hopes up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up.
It's starting to go crazy. Last one here. Hopes up.
Hopes up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up.
Because I kind of glide into the D flat and I want it to be like super straight. Hopes up.
Hopes up, hopes up, hopes up, hopes up. Hopes up. Gonna get my hopes up. You had me.
We have to go.
Why you gotta go and get my hopes up?
So the only part that isn't on the lead is the hopes up. So let's open up. Where is it? Oh, it's an other vocal line pro. Why do you have to go and get my? Kind of put it on normal in vocal line, and then I don't worry about this transient right here because it's better if it's like everything else is lined up, but that doesn't have to be exactly lined up. Line that up. Boom.
Why you gotta?
Let's hear it.
Why you gotta go and get my? Why you gotta go and get my?
Let's do it here too. Capture.
Why you gotta go and get my? Why you gotta go and get my?
Really tucked in there. It's an amazing plugin.
Why you gotta go and get my? Why you gotta go and get my?
Now I can, since it's so aligned now, I can bring it up.
Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? Why you gotta go and get my hopes up?
Nice.
Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? Yeah,
Let's get the hopes up.
hopes up. You had me so convinced.
It sounded really good. Let's just get this one right here. You don't want to vocal line everything because it's like, you want it to sound like kind of natural. Again, if that's what you're going for. I'm going for the kind of natural, I'm going to pretend I'm a much better singer than I actually am vibe.
You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced.
That
You
G
had me
flat's going to be
so
an F.
convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced.
Sometimes it's fun to
You
loop it.
had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced.
So F to the E flat. Do do. Convinced.
You had me so convinced. You had me so
Yeah.
convinced.
Oh,
You had me so convinced.
yeah.
You had me so
There we go.
convinced. You had me so convinced.
There's that.
You had me so convinced. So convinced. You loved me from the beginning. But now I know that I was wrong. Why you gotta go and get my hopes up?
There's this.
Love me from the beginning, but now I know that I was wrong. Love me from the
Blast through this. Love me, love me, love me. Boom. From the beginning. There's that. Do, do. Yeah, in Melodyne you can actually like hit the note, it'll play it for you. I know this doesn't do that, but. Boo, boo. Boo. Let's see if I can get it all in one shot. Do, 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 do. Flatten that out.
Love me from the beginning, but now love me from the beginning, but now
Girl, the beginning. Not clean enough. Need it to be.
love me from the beginning, but now I know that I was wrong. Love me from the beginning, but now I know that I was wrong. Love me from the beginning, but now I know that I was
Beginning.
wrong.
Right
Love
here.
me from the beginning, but now I know
There.
that I was.
Listen to that.
Love me from the beginning, but now I know that I was wrong. Love me from.
And we can, why you gotta go into my hopes up? We already tuned, so we just copy paste that over here. Let's graphic tune, vocal line rather, this.
Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? You had me so convinced.
Zoom in here.
You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning, but now.
Those S's aren't lined up right now. Vocal line might solve that, but might have to manually do it. Let's see. Vocal line, normal flexibility. I'm gonna track it to that, pressing guide, go to dub. Same amount. Let's see. Sometimes it messes up.
You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning. You had.
Sometimes it kills it, just like it just did. Dub the middle one.
You had me so convinced. You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning. Yeah.
I love it when it just works. This one, last one.
You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning. Yeah.
Now we move on to the next section.
And now I know that I was wrong.
Hit guide, capture. It's like a game.
And now I know that I was wrong.
See that? Wonderful, because I put the bit crusher on these backgrounds, you get a little bit of,
And now.
I love that. Yeah, now it's like some grit.
And now I know that I was wrong. Why you got was wrong? What
I'm hearing a little C.
wrong? Wrong.
Not here,
Wrong.
not here.
Wrong.
Oh, there it is.
Wrong.
Wrong. Let's go back to Autotune. Pro Tools in its next update has to include multiple audio suite windows in one window.
Wrong. Wrong. Wrong.
That's a B, not a C. Should be an E flat. Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong. Wrong. Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong. Wrong. There's that. Wrong.
Wrong. Now I know that I was wrong. Now I know that I was wrong. Why you gotta go and get my hopes up?
Let's do this. Copy paste.
Why you gotta go and get my hopes up? Why you gotta go and get.
That's, oh, and we have these down here.
You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning. But now I know that I was wrong.
Oh, that's gonna be so good. So these little harmonies here, I usually go really, really heavy on the vocal line, like super unnatural sounding, and it's totally okie dokie fine because no one's really gonna hear them unless they somehow get the stems, which I'm sure someone will. Maximum compression to the lead. Boom.
You had me so convinced.
There's that.
You had me so.
This is how tight they sound.
You had me so convinced. You loved me from the beginning. But now I know that I was wrong. You had me so convinced. You loved me.
So this is what the chorus sounds like right now. You don't want to like vocal line everything. Again, want to keep it some parts loose, but the most obvious parts really, really tight. I approve of that. So let's tackle this verse a little bit. It's a little less work. Again, they used to use Eventide harmonizers to do very, very light tuning on songs that kind of sounded like this in 1987, 1988. So you don't want to kill it with it because it won't really be true to form.
I paint this picture in my head.
Let's just get that really quickly. Format on.
I paint.
Scroll off. This right here.
I paint this picture.
Just down a little bit. Sure. Go up like that. Boom.
I paint this picture in my head.
Ooh, that's gonna be good.
I paint this picture in my head. I paint this picture in my head.
Right here.
I paint
Boom.
this picture in my head.
And I want to keep that vibrato, so I don't want to go too crazy on it.
I paint this picture in my head. I paint this picture in my head. Don't live in reality. Just don't live in reality.
So I kind of did like a little vocal fry there. Just don't live. So don't trip on tuning that. You can just leave that alone.
Just don't live.
It's got. I didn't even really hit a note. Very smooth that out.
Just don't live in reality. Just don't live in reality. Just don't live in reality.
Tune.
Just don't live in reality. Just don't live in reality.
I got a little tough there.
Just don't live in reality. Just don't live in reality. Just
Boom.
don't live in reality.
It's a little hard there.
Just don't live in reality.
Let's see what that sounds like.
Yes, I just don't live in reality.
Back it off overall.
Yes, I just don't live in reality. Yes, I just don't live in reality.
Nice, that sounds good. Sounds like the moon landing.
It's so pathetic that I can't. It's so pathetic.
That note to the
that
it's you don't really need. I guess you could do that, but it's going crazy.
It's so pathetic that I can't. 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 It's so pathetic that I can't.
So
It's so
I definitely didn't nail that, so I gotta kind of draw it in.
It's so pathetic that I can't. It's so pathetic that I can't. It's so pathetic that I can't.
That's a little
It's
much.
so pathetic that I can't. It's so pathetic that I can't. It's so pathetic that I can't.
That's bothering me.
It's so pathetic that I can't.
Much better.
It's so pathetic that I can't. It's pathetic that I can't. 'Cause I'm thinking about how perfect we could be. Why you got
It's not even that bad, really. Just about making it super tight. And this is the last one in the verse.
About how perfect we could be. About how perfect we could be. About
help. Boom, boom, help. Let's see.
About how perfect we.
It's a lot. Back it off.
About
Still a lot.
how perfect we could be.
That's kind of washy.
About how perfect we could be. About how perfect we could be.
On a serious note, you're touching your mouse a lot. Make sure you stretch your hand or else you're going to get carpal tunnel. That's happened to me before.
About how perfect we could be. 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 About how perfect we could be.
This is going to be a D flat.
About how perfect we could be. 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 About how perfect.
See what that sounds like.
About how perfect we could be. Why you gonna go and get my hopes up?
And listen how nicely that collides in. And I want to keep everything else loose. So this is what the verse going into the chorus would sound like. The fully tuned verse lead and going into the fully tuned chorus lead. From the top we have. And now it's all about just mixing and fine tuning, and we're just going to EQ some things. There's definitely some frequencies I want to subtract from in these vocals, but you got to tune vocal now, and that's the most important part.